Well, hello there. Welcome to the Weekend Update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy day to you. Hope everything's going well.
Life is treating me very well. Thank you very much. You know, and there are some days when not so much, but today's a good day. Since last we talked, you know who made a statement? Letitia James.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm guessing her because, she's got to go fund me because she feels that it's an injustice. Look, she got caught doing fraud, and she's defending herself. And, it's damn well obvious what you did, Letitia, but you want people to pay for your legal woes, and you're guilty of doing what you accused Trump of?
Mortgage fraud. She said she married her father. I mean, that's great. She used a nonprofit for her 2013 campaign when she shouldn't have illegally. She declared a Virginia home as her primary residence.
Yeah.
I mean, this lady goes, and by the way, she has the audacity on this program, which is on, I believe, New York One, which is a cable news channel in New York City. And she has the audacity to look into the camera and, with all of the confidence and cockiness there is, deny everything and blame everything once again on who?
Trump.
Absolutely. Listen.
Good to see you, Ms. James. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Errol.
Absolutely. What is going on here? Did anybody contact you before this letter went out accusing you of this, that, and the other and making a criminal referral about real estate transactions?
No, not at all. And let me just say to all New Yorkers and to all Americans, the allegations are baseless. The allegations are nothing more than a revenge tour. And as you mentioned, my office was successful in securing a $454 million judgment against Donald Trump and others for exaggerating the value of his assets. He engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And the interest is accruing each and every day while the case is on appeal in the First Department. It's important that individuals know that this is nothing more than the continuation of the tour. He went after law firms, universities, immigrants, women. Thousands of federal employees right now are unemployed. Our government is in chaos and in disarray. Medicaid, Social Security, CFPB, and the list goes on and on and on. And as you know, as you mentioned, each and every day, my office is leading the fight against these executive orders, which have no legal import at all, have no legal significance. And we are standing up for the rights and privileges of New Yorkers and Americans. I will not be silenced. I will not be bullied. I will not bend. I will not break. And I will not bow to anyone. No one is above the law, including the President of these United States.
Okay.
The Office of the Attorney General will continue to stand up.
Let me follow up of some of what's in this this letter. It says, according to media reports, which for us in the media is kind of a red flag, meaning that it seems to be based on some social media posts that I know were made by partisan political actors. But just let me ask you about some of the specifics in the letter. They're saying that your house in Brooklyn is a legal 5-family and the mortgage on it is for a 4-family house. Is that true?
So let me just say that, Errol, as any good attorney, I will not litigate this case in a camera. It's important that we will respond to these allegations at the appropriate time and in an appropriate way. But I will not go back and forth with respect to these baseless allegations. I am more focused, again, on standing up for the freedoms, the liberties, and for the rule of law in the state of New York.
I was under the impression by all of this that what they were really looking for is what they got, which is a headline saying, Tish James is under a criminal investigation. Is that pretty much what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what they got. That's what they got. And it's unfortunate that you have some of these right-wing conservative individuals who are camped out in front of my home and in front of the homes of my relatives in Virginia, harassing them each and every day. And it's unfortunate, knocking on the doors of my neighbors and the neighbors of my relatives in the state of Virginia. And it is nothing more than a headline, nothing more than, again, retaliation against all of the actions that I have taken successfully against Donald Trump.
Okay, that's enough. All I can tell you is this: she is Bill. She's dancing, tap dancing, real fast. That line where she's not going to litigate in front of a camera.
Well, I was going to talk about that. I was going to talk about that reporter. I was going to talk about her being out of breath and her voice and the timbre in her voice. She is nervous because she got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. That news reporter, those were staged questions that she had her ready response to. That is her... that's her cleanup team there.
Yeah,
trying to
that was
clean everything up.
That was a sycophant. That was a guy who was.
Yeah.
That was a guy who was trying to, kiss up
But
to her.
She will not. She just called herself a crappy lawyer. As you know, any good lawyer would not prosecute their case in front of a camera. Hell, Letitia, you did it for 2 damn years. So you must really suck below the bottom of the the pond here. You're the lowest of the low. That's what you just said.
I also think, by the way, that we haven't seen it yet, but Trump's case is in front of an appeals court, and it would not surprise me if in the not too distant future it is overruled. It is overturned on appeal, because everybody who looks at that case says there was no victim.
Yeah. No, there wasn't, and they didn't take a lot of testimony. They were lenient on other ways. It was a setup, but there was one thing that was missing from this audio that you just played, this statement and this staged, conference there. Do you know what that is?
What?
She did not acknowledge one allegation.
Oh, of course.
Or was it presented?
Yes. No. She didn't say a word about. Again, by the way, this is the second time she's talked on mic.
Yes.
Both times she's come out and gone after Trump. Understand something, Letitia. President Trump's got a lot more on his plate right now than you. And I think that you're being a little egotistical if you think that the world evolves around your situation.
Yeah.
You got caught.
Yeah. And who's defending her right now? She is defending herself. Oh, she gets an attorney. I guarantee the state of New York is paying for that. But the one thing that she's doing is she's using it as a way to get money. And she's set up a GoFundMe to help her with her legal expense.
I don't think she'll.
No.
I don't think she's going to. I was thinking, most respectable people, I say respectable, in the past, in situations like this, at some point when they get caught, they resign their post. I would rather stay and be in this position, but I have to concentrate my efforts on my personal situation, and I can no longer commit to my job, so I'm going to have to resign. I think she has such an ego. I think she's going to stay there. She's going to hang on to that job. They'll be pulling the badge out of her purse. She won't go easily.
She's probably got two, one put away in a safe and the one that's in her purse. This is an evil, despicable woman, and don't even let her try to come and play the race card, because I don't care the color of her skin. She is a crook. She is a thief. She is a con. And she just admitted that she's not a good lawyer, and she didn't deny the charges. She just wouldn't acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, and she spent 4 minutes, re-prosecuting Trump. Well, her house fraud has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Zippy, zero, none, nothing.
So what are you doing, Letitia?
She's trying to divert the attention away from her corruption to the baseless charges she threw at Trump. This is not, like Bill said, this is not about the president, Letitia. This is about you.
Yeah, let's boil it down, Letitia. I'll make it real clear and simple to you. When there's a stench in the air and you want to get rid of it, you use your nose to follow it to the source, and all smells lead to you, Letitia. This stinks. You stink. You're lying.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but she did speak out, even though it was staged. It really was staged.
Oh, it was staged.
And,
yeah,
and New York One, by the way, is it's a local New York City kind of cable news channel, and they really don't have much influence outside of the city. But at least it was somebody I'm sure she could. The interviewer was somebody that she could manipulate, and he sounded it. He sounded
New York One. Until we just played that, I never heard of him, and that's just the way it is. I'm going to go back to Feet Point and see if they're on there.
They are. They've been around for a while.
I have never heard of them.
Well, anyway, Tom Homan, by the way, was on with Caitlin Collins. I don't know why people go on CNN to be with her. I don't know. Either they don't know that she's going to do the interview when they accept an invite, but why they would sit down with this hatchet lady is beyond me. She is, in my opinion, she's not a professional interviewer. She interrupts constantly, and she is rude. And most good interviewers will give the people that they're interviewing a chance to respond, not her. But anyway, she was on with Homan yesterday, and it didn't go well. Listen.
I've seen some people look at this and say they're worried that the stance of this administration when it comes to this is that if someone is deported by accident, that they have no responsibility for them once they are in the custody of a foreign government. What would you say to that?
Well, they're in the custody of El Salvador. He's an El Salvadoran national. He was born in El Salvador. El Salvador has him in custody, and El Salvador decide what happened to him. I mean, again, El Salvadoran president made it clear he's not going to release him. So, again, I'm going to go back. The DOJ, they can fight this out in the courts. Says I'm not a part of that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a prosecutor. So we'll let the courts, decide what the next steps will be.
Even though it was a U.S. immigration judge who said the one place he can't go is El Salvador. I mean, he could have been deported literally anywhere else.
Again, we keep going back and back. But again, that was years ago. Country conditions were different. That gang no longer exists in El Salvador. He had been designated a terrorist since that time. 2 different federal judges said he's an MS-13 member. A police department said he's an MS-13 member. ICE data shows he's an MS-13 member. El Salvador says he's an MS-13 member. As you know, MS-13 been designated terrorist. The case says the facts of the case have changed since that first decision. So again, I'll leave it up to the DOJ to argue that case in court, but that is where I stand, and that's my belief.
Amazing. She says it with a smile like it's an I gotcha. Even though a federal judge said that the one place he can't go is El Salvador. And Holman says that's an old ruling, that gang no longer exists. It's not an issue anymore. Even though he said local police said he's MS-13, ICE said he's MS-13, FBI, I mean, though he goes through this litany of people who said that the guy is MS-13.
All right, let me ask you a question. Garcia, good guy, bad guy, based on his rap and reputation?
Well, any guy who beats up his wife is a bad guy. Okay?
All right. But it goes beyond that.
That's all it has to go with me. You lift and look at, you can have the most difficult person in the world you're living with, but you have other options. You can pack up your bag.
Yeah,
and go to a
no.
hotel.
I agree with you on the you don't beat a woman. You don't do that. But this guy, he's a bad player to begin with. That's just it starts there and it continues on. He's a bad guy. He's a bad player. There is no mistake. You know, he goes, he stays.
If you looked at the video of Van Hollen, who, by the way, in my opinion, he made an ass of himself, going down there and talking about him like he's,
A citizen,
yes,
like a resident.
like he's a citizen of our country, unjustly
Yeah, he's not.
incarcerated. Yeah, he went down there and, Bukele, the president of El Salvador, said he's fine. I'm not. Initially, he said you're probably not going to see him, and then he said okay. He relented, and he allowed the guy to get in civilian clothes. I'm talking about Garcia, and go to a hotel, sit on a balcony in a beautiful setting, like very tropical. It looked like they were sipping, margaritas or daiquiris or something, a tropical drink, and they were having a nice conversation. And Van Hollen looked kind of unctuous. I mean, he kind of was leaning into him like he was so happy he's here. And I'm thinking, this creep across the seat from him is probably thinking, "You sucker. You sucker. I am all those things. I am."
But you know what? He'll play along with him if he thinks he can get him out. And the dumbass from down there is sitting there thinking, "Oh, he's in front of me now. I've got this tiger by the tail."
Soon. Yeah, I'll be out of here soon.
No. It the whole thing was a joke. If you're sitting there falling for it, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
you need to back this bus up and take a real hard look and forget about the voices that you get from MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, because they're all propaganda news. But I do see what they're doing, and I do see how some people think, well, they're the news. That's the news. It's got to be right. No, it doesn't have to be right. It's been wrong for a long time. And when the news has an agenda, and that agenda is picking sides, we got a problem.
The sad thing about the, quote, news is that when I was a younger man, I would sit down in front of my TV set and watch a news program on one of the established networks, and I would think, oh, I got the story now. That's probably what happened. Now, every time I look at a story on mainstream media,
You got to challenge it.
I do. Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like I'm getting an honest interpretation or representation of what's going on. Hey, a lot of interesting stuff. This is the Weekend Update program, and it wouldn't be the Weekend Update program if we didn't, kind of walk on the side of the path a bit as opposed to directly on the middle of the path. Interesting story. Oh, the White House science chief. The White House science chief. I didn't think they had one, but I guess they got one of everything at the White House. And he came out and did a speech. And, Bill, when I heard this, it's only 21 seconds long. When I heard this, I said, I got to play this for Bill because his eyes will widen. It'll interest him. Listen to this.
We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Now, did our audience catch that? We have the ability to manipulate time and space. I want you to think about that for a second. Even if you're not a big science person, manipulate time and space. Isn't that how, quote, time travel is done, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly,
well, yeah,
hypothetically. I mean, they say that if you could do time travel, you would have to be able to manipulate time and space.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
that means we could go back and rewrite things too. You know that, right?
I could go back and get that raise that I didn't get.
Yeah. If you could go back and rethink a lot.
I could go back and that diet that I wanted to be on. I could go back and be on it. I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot of things you could do.
That cobbler pie that you ate last night, you could undo it.
I know. I could go back and have seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you ate the whole pie last night, you could go back and have another piece if you could manipulate time and space. But in all honesty, that is. I was thinking when I heard that line, he didn't throw that out there by mistake. That was written into the speech. We can manipulate time and space.
Now, you got that from NBC, MSNBC?
I don't know where I got it, Bill. I get
Well,
it.
there was a story, I think, in the past 24 hours where could have been him, but I think it was somebody else that acknowledged that they do, beyond theory, quantum theory, they have the technology, or at least maybe on paper, that they can manipulate time and space. And that changes everything from just a basic human life level to history to, theology, everything. Because if we have that, we will have assumed a new role in this universe.
I mean, how far can you go back? If you can manipulate time and space, could we go back to World War II or World War I or the Civil War? I mean, is it that flexible? Can you pick a time?
Is a string. If time is a string, everything that's happening now and happened then is all on that string. And so
I mean, you could go back and see people that have passed away.
And you could go to the future.
And see children that haven't been born yet as
and
adults.
Grab technology.
Well, I mean, that would be interesting. Maybe that's how we're getting our technology. Maybe we're going to the future, getting it, and bringing it back. Yeah, you look at things like those unidentified flying objects, the Tic Tacs. They've been the subject of a lot of speculation recently, and because they were actually videotaped by fighter jets, those Tic Tacs, those, and they said they could do some maneuvers that we couldn't do. It would kill a human being. You could be going at the speed of sound and take a right turn, quick right turn. That would be the end of a human being. But maybe there's technology. Maybe what we're seeing and we're thinking are UFOs from outer space are actually our stuff from the future coming back.
Well, maybe so. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can look at this. Maybe we do have the technology. Maybe we don't. Maybe we theorize that we do. It all gets down to math. Everything in life is equated to math. But, if you wanted to, it's a Saturday show, so we can get into hypotheticals and the strange, the mysteries of life and the deep caverns in my mind. But let's just say that we're getting this from time travelers. And maybe these time travelers are something different than an ordinary race of people. What if, we are founded on biblical faith and the Bible, all right? But let's just say, and we believe there's one God and one God only. And now my preacher is going to go, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening with interest too. Go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
But let's just say there is the divine, but maybe there's another eternal, not the devil, but another eternal, and they're messing around.
You're saying there are two gods.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way.
Well, I mean, if there's you called it an eternal, but it's a god. You're saying
it's a god, and they've chosen to come here and monkey around with stuff.
Well, wouldn't that be the devil?
Well, you could have two devils too.
Boy, you're really adding a whole cast to the play here. Holy smokes!
Yeah. I mean, think of it as an alternate heaven.
What do you? What's in your right side coffee this morning? I'm just curious.
A lot of sugar.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I don't. I'm just saying. I'm throwing something out there. I mean, it's far fetched. I get that.
Well, what I think is interesting, Bill, you talked about these weapons. Earlier, you and I were talking about pulse weapons and energy weapons and things like that.
LRAD.
And would they have to be? Would you have to be able to use time and space to make the weapons work properly? I mean, I'm just curious. No. All right.
No.
All right.
That's technology we have.
Well, I'm talking about laser stuff like that. That's light.
Not really.
Well, they have laser weapons right now. They have laser weapons on ships.
Mm-hmm.
And they have them on airplanes too.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine they probably have them on satellites that we don't even know about.
Well, you talk about rods of God. Are they missiles? Are they laser lights? You look at Hawaii, and everyone said, yeah, there were these beams that came down. And I was thinking about that. It's a distraction from the LRAD story I wanted to talk about that we talked about a few years ago. But they're on the internet. You'll see somebody that's taken a microwave, taken the magnetron out of it, and hooked up power to it and put it on a cone. And they sit across the room and they put something over on the other side of the room and they turn it on and hit the button. And you don't see a light, but you see that it catches, it takes a book and bursts it into flames. All right? Mm-hmm. That's done with a magnetron, which is used, that's the power source.
Made by Raytheon back in 1947, right. Yes.
Right. Yeah, it was developed. Yeah, in where? When?
Raytheon in 1947, I believe.
When did? Yeah, which is before. I was always told that the use of that was invented for the Apollo program. But see, you're saying 1947. But either way, the magnetron has been around for quite a long time. It's in your microwave. You've got a magnetron. Don't go and take apart your microwave and go, I'm going to take that out and do this experiment, because there's a damn good chance that you're going to grab a capacitor, touch something that'll put you on the floor dead.
Well, it's interesting, Billy. I've learned, you probably have too, that you lose your magnetron in your microwave, toss it. Because the most important thing, the main thing, 90% of the microwave is that magnetron.
Right. And it vibrates everything inside, and it's that vibration that cooks things. Now, a horn antenna on that thing. Imagine that. You're taking that signal, the magnetron, and you're funneling it. Could you not put that in a plane? And instead of you got a 5,000 watt microwave. No. I want a 1,000,000 watt microwave. Okay, it's a big unit, probably take up a cargo plane. Maybe they've condensed it. Might take several thousand volts. Well, they've got generators, they can fly. So in other words, you could do that and fly over.
Well, would that not be that would be an energy weapon, right?
That would be an energy weapon.
And
we can build that now.
So the thing is, how far can it shoot? I mean, could you shoot it from orbit and hit a target on Earth?
Well, I would think so. Do you remember there were people, I think, went down, Washington people that went down south. I think they went to Puerto Rico, and they were having meetings, and they were in a building, and they all got sick and nauseated.
Cuba.
Yeah. All right. There was an old thing, again, getting to the magnetron. You could actually build from a microwave a unit that sits there, and you aim it through a wall, and you turn it on, and it sends those microwave waves through the wall. It can only go so far because it's limited. But the people on the other side, you're cooking them.
Yeah, they were shooting that at the embassy, the U.S. embassy, or the consulate in Havana.
So, you could buy $150, $200 microwave, take it apart, strip it down, throw away the box, put it on a wood plank, hook the right power up to it, don't touch anything, just put a switch on it. You could sit there and aim it. You could turn it on, leave the building, and pretty much, microwave, whatever that you're trying.
With conspiracy theories, there's usually a seed.
Well, that's not really conspiracy.
No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about with conspiracy theories in general. Many times there's a seed of truth. Okay, and as recently as I started hearing about the rods of God back in 2020, and I thought, "Whoa, that's interesting." But it was kind of poo-pooed. But then what happened in Maui got my attention. They don't know what happened. They just all of a sudden these houses started to catch fire. The whole town.
Let's do another history lesson. Take a little time trip back, and we'll bring it forward to today. But let's talk about, now we've talked about energy waves, acoustic sound waves. But let's go before the acoustic sound waves, even though this technology was before what I'm talking about. Do you remember when Bush was in and there was a cartel person that we wanted? And so what they did is they went and took big, giant speakers down there, and they thumped, I think it was rock music, but music that was just irritating and agitating. and that's how they drove them out.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, that was it.
All right.
Was drove them nuts.
But it was using sound waves. Now, you can sit there. There are certain energy waves that can be done, and there's a system called LRAD. There's only one place to buy it, the United States. There is a company that makes them. Pretty much, this sonic wave is illegal in most countries of the world, including Serbia, Russia. But, people that are from Belgrade, protesters.
You say that, but I think police have a form of a sonic weapon that they can use to disperse crowds.
I said it's illegal in a lot of countries.
Oh, it's not illegal here.
No. But it is illegal because of what it does. I mean, it's, now there's a couple of types. I mean, some it's the sound that you can audibly hear. It is the sound from hell.
Right.
And you
end up on your knees and in pain. Yeah.
You're in pain. You're on fire. You can't think.
Yep.
Think of somebody that's got a cluster headache or a migraine headache.
Mm-hmm.
And magnify that 100 or 1,000 times. There you go. Now you get out of that wave and you're fine. Well, I say you're fine. There's an extension to that, but because you're doing things that we may not understand, or maybe we do, to the brain. But we have this because, like, apparently Serbia, a few years ago, I think they bought. I forget how many. I had the number. I was trying to do that before we recorded, but I know they at least got half a dozen to 20 of those units that they bought at a very high price for the United States. Now, there was rumor that they used the LRAD, on crowds in Belgrade. Russia says they've investigated, and that's not true. So there's denial of the banned sonic weapon. But again,
I think they did use it. I think we wrote a story about it here on our program about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I think they did too. And again, there's only one place to get it. They bought it from us, and those receipts exist, but they're illegal in Serbia and many countries. So, it's interesting. But, when you talk about sonic waves, I was reading a story the other day about a guy that was a military veteran, and his son was a vet too, but his son committed suicide. And it wasn't in him, and he said, look, you're going through some stuff. We're going to get you some help. He goes, don't worry, Dad, I'm not going to commit suicide. And then what did he do? He committed suicide. So this father said, there's got to be something. And he spent a lot of time and going to the right. Finally, he went to the right places and found somebody to do a study, and a normal x-ray wouldn't show it. But when you fire a rifle, you got it up on your shoulder and it's by your head, or you fire a bazooka, or you're around a cannon that has a big percussion blast. Well, that wave goes and it hits a portion of the brain that changes and scrambles a lot of your thought and, any logical thinking that you have. And it's a problem. It's now, I forget what they call it, but it's actually a known thing that soldiers
You wonder
go
how
through.
many soldiers have committed suicide after war because of that.
Or they come home with anger issues.
Yeah.
And they beat their wives and they're withdrawn. Or I got a friend, and he's a nice kid. He's a nice guy, and he was a correctional officer.
Mm-hmm.
But then, he got into drugs to kill the voices or the pain in his head.
Yeah.
And he got help. But every once in a while, I saw him doing some work on my property, and somebody said something, and this big, muscular behemoth of a man broke down and was just crying.
Have you ever seen old movies of World War I veterans or who have what they used to call it shell shock back then?
Yeah.
And you'll see pictures of them walking around and twitching and stuff like that. And they couldn't figure out why is that happening? And it probably was because of stress, because of noise, because of sound. All those things you just talked about probably had an effect on the brain, and now the impulses are going all over the place. Scramble the brain.
So, we knew about it. We know about it. We make a sonic weapon. It's a private company, but either way, the government has these units, and the police have these units. Apparently, they're legal here. They're illegal in a lot of countries. But, chemical warfare is illegal too. But I know it's been used at times of war. The victor,
President Trump, about 10 days ago, and I heard him say it at a press conference, said, we have got some of the most amazing weapons ever created. He said, that's all I'll say. We've got some of the most amazing. He said it so definitively. It wasn't like, well, we have really good weapons. It was like, we've got some stuff you would never believe. That's what it sounded like to anyone who's listening.
Well, when, and I believe that. And I believe that he's in total awe there going, wow. But, after doing that, you got to go, should anybody have that? But then again, should anybody have the nuclear bomb?
Well,
once the knowledge is there, the genie's out of the bottle. You've got to have it to defend yourself against the other person.
You hear Russia was bragging about a year ago about hypersonic missiles. They have them. And what a hypersonic missile is, twice the speed of sound? Or it's some.
It's very fast.
It's some amazing. Well, let me put it to you this way: from Russia to a target in the U.S., 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Yeah. You got to realize is that the old defense thing. If Russia fired a missile, all right, and let's say they were going topside around the world, what is it, 20, 30 minutes to get here?
Yeah, plenty.
And so the idea was they would fire it and go around the other way so that our radar wouldn't detect, and it would have less time to react. Well, now you think if they go over the top, it's 7 minutes, but if they go on the other side, we'll cut that in half, cut it down to a quarter. By the time that we realized it was coming,
it's here.
Yeah. It's here because, you get on the point, hey, we've got in.
So you have to ask yourself, why is it that we're not just jumping through hoops trying to match that or beat that? And I think it's because we've got defenses, and they won't tell us this, that we will never, ever understand. I mean, I used to kid. I like to write scripts. One of my scripts and one of my stories that I was writing, I thought of a system that would actually knock missiles out in the silo. They would open the silo doors up to launch them, and we would take them out. But it was science fiction when I thought of it about 30 years ago. It was an interesting premise. I think they have the capability right now. I think they can see the silos. They can see even if the missile is on a truck and it's mobile. I think as soon as it breaks the trees, and you can see the profile from. Mm-hmm. I think they can take it out.
I have a hunch that there's a way to, there's a signature, with that atomic weapon that we can probably spy. Now, I do believe, I know when China and then Russia had the hypersonic weapon, we were trying to develop it and we had a lot of failures. But I also am of not just the impression, the understanding that we actually have the capabilities now. But, what Trump is talking about are things far beyond that, and these things were put into play and development a long time ago. And to be honest with you, take this president out of it, Biden, any president out of it, the military-industrial complex, and even if you want to say the deep state, they are an entity unto themselves. They don't live by the same rules and the same boundaries. So there's probably things that have been developed or in development that you wouldn't believe. There's a piece of software that's a tracking piece of software that a company that was a startup company just a few years ago, they've got, and it can sit there and monitor when an attack happens. It can trace. You can throw 15,000 warheads in all different directions. It can track them all, and then whatever's launched, and take them out before they ever hit. And we have that technology.
Yeah, this is these are amazing times that we're living in. When I heard of the rods of God, I thought that sounds like whoever said that, the rods of God. It wasn't like a made up science fiction. Something they put into a story somewhere. It was the person was in the military and he was talking as if he had seen it. We could always use the rods of God, and I thought, what the hell are the rods of God? But apparently they can take missiles out, on the location before they even leave the attacking country's territory. You know what else I wanted to play for you, Bill?
Sure.
Laura Logan was being interviewed recently. I don't know whether you guys are familiar with Pizzagate, but Pizzagate was in Washington, D.C. There was a pizza shop that supposedly was like the headquarters for the local D.C. pedophiles. I'm not talking about, the creeps off the street. I'm talking about the pedophiles who were in government. I know it's hard to believe that there are pedophiles in government, but they're there, apparently. And some of them have a very high profile. And but she was talking about Pizzagate and pedophilia, and here's what she said. It's only about a minute long.
Katy Perry doing a music video about cannibalism where she's being cooked and prepared to be eaten. Okay, these people are crazy. Maria Abramovich holding up a severed goat's head and doing spirit cooking and bathing people in blood and having fake, cannibal dinners where all these Hollywood celebrities are standing around taking a piece of the fake, sort of body and eating it. And they're drowning in fake blood. I mean, I'm sorry, but these are the crazy people. John Podesta's art that he poses in front of in his office or his home or whatever it is, you can find those pictures on the internet. He's insane. The people painting kids in their underwear in different forms of ritual sacrifice or with blood or with the handkerchief that is, this handkerchief is part of the map that's meant to be your signature in pedophilia. These are the crazy people. We're not crazy for talking about it. We're not crazy for wanting the truth. We're not crazy for wanting to know who were the people that Ghislaine Maxwell was supplying children to. We're not crazy for asking those questions, and I don't care what they say about me.
She's a lady, by the way, with an incredible amount of credibility. 60 Minutes for years, and a lot of Emmy Awards, and all these accolades she got from her profession. And now they talk about her like she's nuts. She's not nuts. I mean, she hasn't changed. But I think, Bill, that there's the faction of people who are at that level and participate in this stuff. I believe they are powerful, and I think they can squelch. For example, why is it that even now, almost 100 days into the Trump administration, we haven't seen the list of criminals that were involved with Epstein Island? We haven't seen it. Nothing.
I think there's a reason for that, and it's probably one that you or I couldn't imagine, and it's probably one that Trump couldn't even imagine or would have imagined. Put it that way. Will we see it? I'm hoping so, and I'm thinking the intent is to get us to that point. But I don't know that. There could be an entire overthrow and dismantling of this country, and I still don't know that you would get to the bottom of everything we want to know.
You mean if a completely new type of government, they still wouldn't go in there and get the stuff out of the files and give it to the people?
What I'm saying is it's so rancid, it's so bad, it's so vile, it's so filthy, it's so contagious. You just seal it up and lock it away, kind of like an Indiana Jones movie where they have
they wheel the big crate into the
You don't want to open that up because when you do, all hell comes out.
Wow.
And maybe this is, how low can mankind go? Oh, I don't know that we've seen the bottom of that cesspool.
Wow. Hey, and another thing, well, we can talk about that. Well, look, I do believe that there are people out there who are pedophiles. I believe there are people. You know what spirit cooking is, by the way? It's blood and male sperm, and they mix it up and they drink it. And I mean, this is what they supposedly do. I mean, it is sick. And for people to even if it was a phony body, they put like this body in this big vat of phony blood. It's all, quote, edible, but it's supposed to represent a real body and real blood. And they eat it like it's a game. These celebrities. That's why.
How do you know that they don't? Somebody, sometimes people take fiction and turn it into reality.
Or they take reality and turn it into fiction so that we don't think they're nuts. But, I used to think that some people in Hollywood were great actors and great entertainers, and then I found out more about these people. I'm not going to mention any names now because it's not my place, but there are people in Hollywood that are vile, and we have given these people adulation and respect they don't deserve because they live on another plane than we do. They play by a different set of rules.
Yeah, and you get down to the question you got to ask. If you were starving and you're hungry, and somebody offers a bowl of soup, but for that bowl of soup, you've got to give away your soul. Well, how low would you go? Would you do that?
I think some people would give it away in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And now, your moral compass. How badly do you want something? We all get the wantsies in our life, but at some point in time, you've got to look at the price that you pay now or later.
I've had it in my career. I've had it in my life. I've had it in my life where I've had an opportunity to do things that I really might have wanted to do in my career, but it would have affected my family or hurt, and it wasn't a good move. That's how. But I also know guys who were offered similar opportunities and jumped at it, and many of them, it destroyed their lives. So,
yeah, you don't know. You got to stick true to your guns. You got to sit there and, don't give up. Don't give up your soul. Don't compromise yourself.
Right.
I guess is what I'm really
Life
trying to
is
say.
short. Eternity is forever.
Yeah. And you know what? If it's going to cost you reputation, family, love, whatever, I put value on all those things. And if it's going to cost you that, now sometimes you don't have a choice, but either way, if it's going to cost you, I'm saying all those things we want are more important than the price for that job. If that's what it costs, well, you know what? It's something I want to do, but I'm not going to do it. Just forget about it. Nice knowing you. I'm moving on.
Speaking of moving on, we're almost ready to wrap this weekend update program up, but I wanted to leave with a little bit of a quiz for you, all right? Are you ready? I want you to listen very carefully.
I'm never good at this stuff.
Listen very carefully.
Guess which is it? Is it NBA or NFL? 36 have been accused of spousal abuse. 7 have been arrested for fraud. 19 have been accused of writing bad checks. 117 have directly or indirectly been bankrupted at least 2 businesses. 3 have done time for assault. 71, I repeat, 71 cannot get a credit card due to their bad credit. 14 have been arrested on drug-related charges. 8 have been arrested for shoplifting. 21 currently are defendants in lawsuits, and 84 have been arrested for drunk driving in the last year. How many of you think NBA? How many of you think NFL? Well, the answer is neither. It's the 435 members of the United States Congress.
Well, I heard that. Wow. Holy smokes. Makes you think, doesn't it, huh, folks? NBA or NFL, neither. It was Congress.
Yeah, it's Congress. But now, you know what? And coming in probably number 2 is the NBA. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yes, but, that's a list you don't want to be on.
Well, Cher did a song about them one time, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves.
Thank you, Bill. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
by the way,
go ahead.
I was going to say, going back to the time thing, we talked about the string of time and everything. I was thinking about that. When they talk about manipulating time, maybe what they're really talking about, because I have my doubts about when something's gone, it's gone. If it hasn't happened, it hasn't happened. But there are ripples in time. Like you throw a rock into the water, and it leaves ripples, and like little time rings. And I'm sure, and they go on for a long way. So maybe there's a way that we can sit there and manipulate.
I just find it so hard, Bill, to think that if time travel exists, can you go in both directions? Can you only go forward, or can you go backward? You have to be able to go backward. Otherwise, you never get back to where you started from, right? So if you can go backwards, then people who've died are still alive at some point in time? At some point in time.
Well, I don't know. I mean...
which also leads to another question. Are we dead already at some point in time?
Well, obviously, yeah, in the future we're dead. But it gets down to what's innately inside of us. Our spirit, our soul, and that is
eternal.
Is eternal.
Yeah.
So it has a past, it has a future, and this body that it's like a magnetic recording.
I love what that guy said, by the way. He said our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. And he said it with no equivocation. There was no
okay.
Wow.
Well, what I just said, we have our spirit, we have our soul, and that's eternal. So that means everything that was, is, and the future. And in other words, we are an eternal timestamp, is what I'm saying. So if you can find a way to tap into that, you might get, I don't know. I'm out of my realm of study. I was just an average kid in school.
All I can tell you is it makes for interesting conversation, doesn't it, though? I mean, when you think about it, and I always think this. For centuries, no matter where you go on this earth, there are religions, or different religions. Some of them have never bumped into each other, right? I mean, the Aztecs and the Incas, they didn't have any relationship with the Egyptians or any of the other tribes and the Hindus. I'm talking about 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. But yet, you're right. They had certain common things that they believed. They believed in a divine leader. They had all of these things that made you go, how did they have a similar belief system and be so separated by land and water, and they had no line of communication. There was no contact, but yet they had it. Am I?
No, I get it. It's hard to explain, but there's like a plane of knowledge, and I always sat there and said, if you have an idea, and everyone goes, well, that's a great idea, Bill. You ought to do it, and you don't do it, and then all of a sudden you pick up the paper, man invents. Hey, that's my idea.
Do you ever wonder where ideas come from?
I think there's a river of thought. I
really
do.
Guys like Tesla believed that he was given his ideas. He didn't have those. He didn't think all this stuff up. He believed that he was the recipient of these ideas. I think Einstein had a similar belief. I could be wrong, but I think he even expressed.
There are people out there that partake in, I don't, but there are people that partake in different things, the wacky tobacco, and I think of Indian culture. And to get in touch with the spirit world, what'd they smoke?
They didn't smoke cigars, I'll tell you that much.
No, they didn't. But that's when they could
peyote.
Speak to the spirits.
Yes.
Yeah, peyote. Yeah, they could speak to the spirits. Well, maybe what that did was take them out of their battened down mortal world to where they're on a different plane, and all of a sudden you start seeing things. It's like kids before the age of 7. Grandma's been dead for 5 years, but they see grandma.
Oh, I know.
And they've had a conversation with her, and they can tell you something that she should not even know.
People are wondering, what are you talking about? What Bill just said is so true, and I've heard it myself. They say that children, up until the age of 7, are closer to the other side, the side they just came from, than the world we live in here, And that's why you'll hear ghost hunters and stuff say kids will see somebody in the closet, or they'll be talking to somebody nobody else can see, and everybody dismisses it. But the kid will say, I saw them, you know.
We create life. We create life, and a woman bears a child. But until that little butt gets smacked and the soul enters it, the spirit enters it, it's nothing. And so it's just a vessel. And, you know, I'll leave you.
Speaking of vessels, have you got your vessel of Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee? Otherwise known as a cup.
I wouldn't call it a vessel. I'd call it a coffee cup.
Well, that'll work, too. Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee available at rightsideshops.com. Rightsideshops.com, or go to it'sanotherday.com and press the button up on the top. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, Monday through Friday, we stick to the issues. But on the Saturday program, we get a little loosey-goosey.
We slide off the slope.
Yeah, but we have fun, and that's what the show's supposed to be all about. And we appreciate the fact that you stayed with us, because we probably got you thinking, too, right? You're probably going, yeah, I believe in that. What are you guys smoking? No, anyway. I don't smoke.
Nothing.
I don't smoke.
No, I don't either. And that's the God's honest truth. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke wacky
Neither do
tobacco.
I drink
don't
Jim
do
and Bill's
drugs.
Right Side Coffee, though, Bill.
Yeah, it's good to have a right side coffee. I used to partake in a little bourbon, a little scotch, and maybe an occasional beer, but I don't do that. Yes, I lead a boring life.
But
Welcome to
Jim
my
and Bill's
world.
Right Side Coffee has
pizzazz in it.
we have their own singers. We have our own singers sing that song,
Yeah.
and they're standing right here, going, "Is it our turn yet, Senor?" Oh, yes, it's your turn.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee. Well, I think we can put a fork in this one because it's done, my friend, because it's been an interesting program. Talked about a lot of things that we don't normally talk about, but like I said, it's an update program.
So are you a he, a there, or a they?
I am a...
What's your pronoun?
I'm a he, him.
A he, him.
He, him, who? What?
Yeah.
No, I'm a what? What is he?
I'm a me, myself, and I.
That'll work.
Yeah, that's my pronoun.
I if someone says, "What are your pronouns?" I usually walk.
hit 'em.
I usually walk away. I was like, gag me, you know.
Again, I think we ought to make the little pronoun signs. You know, you by law have to wear them, so there's no confusion anymore, and you can shut up about it.
Yeah,
you don't even need to put it on an application.
What's your pronouns? It's dummy and stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't need your pronoun on an application because you're wearing your tag right. Where is your tag?
Uh-oh.
You idiot. You just earned a new pronoun. Go home and get your pronoun tag.
Yes.
And here's the other one you need, you know?
Well, we could go on and on, but I think if we start talking any more about anything else, we'll lose the room. So with that,
I lost it a long time ago.
I am going to back away and allow you to get us out of here. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday, all right?
Well, I've grabbed the controls. There's only one thing left to do. Put my foot down on the pedal and go, hasta la vista, baby! We're out of here.
This is CRN America.